I was 100% confident that we were going to be able to bring dinosaurs back to life in a very credible way because they were so flawless and fluid, you know, from the original tests that Dennis Muren and ILM had made for me. I just didn't know whether the audiences were going to buy the re-emergence of dinosaurs in the 20th century. I just wasn't sure that concept, despite the popularity of Michael Crichton's book, was going to be as effective as a movie. I hoped it would, and I certainly was, you know, had my fingers crossed. But you never know about these things. You know, the audience decides for themselves.
You know what this is? It's a dinosaur egg. The dinosaurs are breeding. I found a way.
The scary thing about Jurassic Park is we weren't seeing these shots finished until we were well finished with shooting the movie. So it wasn't a matter of being able to say, gee, that could be better. Let's go back to Hawaii and redo this shot. We had to rely on the fact that it was going to work.
Every time we worked on a shot, it was better than what we'd done before, literally the day before. So we were learning as we were going along. And we didn't know how close we could get on these. Like I said, we started out as a stampede with a lot of animals at a distance. Then we got to being able to, let's try a full Brachiosaurus.
As we started to see the very first images, the first one was the giant brachiosaur eating the leaves off of the tree, the very first images that, in fact, our characters see too.
This thing doesn't live in a swamp.
This thing's got, what, a 25, 27-foot neck? The Brachiosaurus 30.
And we worked on it a lot to get everything in place, to get the animal there, to get it rigged and textured to look like it was an actual solid thing. And then we did all the comping. It was digitally composited, so there were no matte lines or anything. And it was pretty shocking.
We looked at that and said, oh, my goodness. That is amazing, and that's what, you know, we're here for. And I think one of my satisfactions about Jurassic Park is we'd use this computer technology in the service of storytelling.
They're moving in herds. They do move in herds.
And we were all as surprised as anybody we could do it. If you'd asked us that like 4 months ago, could we do it? It seemed like probably not. Something's going to go wrong, but we did it. And then from then on, it was doing it for the rest of the shots in the show over the next 5 months or so.
While I was in principal photography on Schindler's List in Krakow, Poland, probably 4 times a week I was having big satellite teleconferences with the effects folks at ILM, and I was having to approve and make adjustments in all the effect shots. They could hear me, I could hear them, we couldn't see each other, but I had the images in real time right in front of me, and I could make all my value judgments that way. But for me, honestly, personally, if I had the choice, I would not have chosen to bifurcate my attention between Schindler's List and Jurassic Park, because that in itself was a very bipolar experience for me, to be shooting the story of the Holocaust and at the same time getting these effects of dinosaurs from an entirely different kind of a motion picture genre to look believable to audiences.
There's a couple different approval processes we need. One is the performance, right, of the creature. So we would usually do a wireframe in the computer graphic just over the background so that Steven could see how he's moving, but it didn't look at all real. Then we might do one that's a little harder, like plastic shelled, that you could see it even better. And then once we sort of have the animation looking right, then we would get into the actual renders and making the creature look like a solid object and moving right, and putting that into the background with all the different, you know, layers of rain and smoke and haze that we needed to do too. That meant that everybody was seeing the progress we were making in the reality, including us. And it was literally, we didn't know we could do this. And so, okay, yes, we can. And we fed that back to Steven as he saw him, and he got bolder with the shots, and I got bolder with the shots. And by the end of the show, yeah, we can do a close-up of the Tyrannosaurus. So Steven comes up with this shot of 2 raptors jumping on the T-Rex. Something that we never, ever thought a month and a half earlier that we could have done.
I was very, very interested and determined to have Jurassic Park not only have digital dinosaurs, but have the first digital soundtrack. And I pretty much said if Exhibition wants to run Jurassic Park, they're going to have to put in a DTS sound system so they could really hear the movie the way it was intended to be heard.
Well, the final mix was full of fun to do sound moments throughout. There's a lot of things in the movie. There's rain, there's a lot of things that are in addition to the dinosaurs. It's an action movie. It takes place in an exotic locale, so great ambiances and birds and vehicles. The T-Rex attack, the main road attack, no music, and it's all raining. So we had rain on every different surface you can imagine, including felt hat. What made it more difficult was Steven Spielberg was shooting Schindler's List when we were final mixing Jurassic Park. So he was on the set of Schindler's List. How he kept both those films in his mind, I don't know. What's really fun to me sometimes is just having something on a keyboard and performing it almost like music and watching the picture and giving it a try and seeing how it works.
Gary Wrightsman and Gary Summers were my sound guys on Jurassic Park. And they pretty much were left to their own creative devices. But I would travel on weekends from Krakow to Paris, and Gary Wrightsman would meet me at a re-recording studio in Paris, and he would preview all the reels that he had mixed in California. So I really was watching the evolution of Jurassic Park coming together when I would listen to it and give notes on all the dub reels.
It wasn't an ideal scenario as a filmmaker, but he's an extraordinary leader when it comes to organizing the way in which you can really shift your focus from one to the other.
I was very involved, of course, as I am with all of my pictures with John Williams, and this was a great experience for both of us, but it was the only time in, I think, our many, many decades together that I was not able to attend the scoring sessions for Jurassic Park because I was making Schindler's List in Poland. So I had to receive the little cassettes and play them for myself.
What I recall about the introduction of the music associated with the animals is that the first time the humans see them, a woman and a man, I think, and we have a long shot of this creature, which is actually very beautiful. What I try to do with the music is to give a sense of wonder and maybe even with a slight sense of religiosity in this way we would be acculturated to these harmonies and so on, so that the orchestra makes a beautiful statement, that almost like you would enter a cathedral, maybe. So that was certainly clear in Steven's interpretation of that thing, and I certainly remember that particular musical moment as being one that was an opportunity to do just that, to give a sense that these animals were magnificent.
Johnny had previewed the main themes on the piano before I left for Poland, so I knew in principle what the Jurassic Park theme was going to be like, what the Raptor music was going to sound like, and it all sounded great on the piano. And so I was really thrilled when the richness and the depth of that score just really filled my car ride to the location every day. I would actually put the cassette in the car and listen to Johnny's score going to and from location in Poland.
I remember particularly the kitchen scene, which is one of the most terrifying scenes I think I've ever seen in a film. And it's scored in a very operatic and dramatic way. And the gestures being operatic, meaning maybe a little bit larger than life. The whole idea was just that. So it was an opportunity again for me to sort of push the orchestral buttons to the limit. That's, for me, part of the great fun and the swashbuckling aspect of what one can do with an orchestra with these kinds of movies.
used to listen to it and be like, this is unbelievable. This really is just like a beautiful piece of music, with or without the movie attached. But then when you see it with the movie and the way, you know, that it enhances moments like by like tenfold, you know, just suddenly it's a whole new level of magic.
The whole year became kind of like a fever dream in a strange sense. I think I used every ounce of intuition making Schindler's List, and I think I used every ounce of craft to make Jurassic Park. And I think somewhere inside my brain there was a small nuclear explosion. And those final months are very blurry to me. I don't have a lot of real lucid recall to share with you what happened in those final months of post on Jurassic Park.
When I saw the film, when he screened it for us for the very first time, it took my breath away. I cried when I saw that image, you know, when the camera pans after I've looked up.
We had a Royal Command performance in London, and I sat beside Princess Di. So it was very interesting to watch her, and I think there's a scary bit coming now. Let's see if she jumps, and she'd jump out of her skin. That was, yeah, she was lovely, actually.
Kids come up to me all the time, and their parents, and they go, you know, I've seen you 170 times because my child has to put it on every single night. They watch the same movie. It's like Howard Hughes, I forget, he watched one movie every day, didn't he? A movie like this turns all kids into mad, crazed, OCDs, nutcases. They can't stop watching the same movie.
I remember being in the theater, scared to death, when Laura Dern says, "We're back in business," and the raptor comes up to the fence behind her. I was able to be an audience member and actually feel it the way it was supposed to be felt. Oh boy, there's nothing like walking out of that movie.
I know this. It's all the files of the whole park.
I was glad looking back on it after reading Michael Crichton's book and then seeing how my part was changed for Jurassic. Instead of being the younger sister and then the older brother, it was the older sister and the younger brother, and I got to have the expertise in the computers. And I think that inspired a lot of young girls as well to see, okay, I can actually do something that has to do with computers or mathematics and technology and be really effective.
You got it! Yes!
I definitely look back at Jurassic Park as being the moment when the explosion actually happened. And that's what was so thrilling to be around, because every one of the players, for all their technical prowess, we all led with our emotions and our heart. And I think that's the part that shows up in the movie. I think that the technology is warm in the movie. And I think there's a reason for that, and that's because the process of who was involved.
Just think of it as kind of a big cow.
Of many of the films I've worked with Steven on, Jurassic was a paradigm shift in terms of recognizing that something had happened in the history of movies, that the way in which we see things, the way in which we can execute things, the ability for your imagination to take that next step toward realizing things that couldn't have been realized as realistically before, that had definitely happened with Jurassic Park.
Every movie that I've made has been a learning opportunity. You know, I've learned so much. And you can only learn if you take chances by doing things that no one's ever done before. You can't learn if you just do something that's in standard use. And Jurassic Park was no exception. We all learned so much about how to make that kind of a movie. We had never done anything like Jurassic Park. My favorite dinosaur has always been the Triceratops. 3 horns are better than 1.
Think they'll have that on the tour?